especially on a Thursday evening. It ushers us into our Hall of Fame, our personality profile here on Joy 99.7 FM. I'm Lexis Bill. Good evening and welcome. Yeah, you probably are done with the day, on your way to the house, right? Or you're home already, settled in with a glass of wine or whatever it is you have in your glass. But yeah, sit back, relax, because we're about to have a very, very good conversation with an amazing man who's my guest here on Personality Profile. Yeah, this evening I spent time with a great brother who has over 18 years experience as a senior development professional. Yeah, he has served as a senior capacity building specialist at USAID's Partnership for Education, evaluating systems specialist in economic justice as Oxfam GB as well in Ghana, policy analyst at the United Nations Development Program in Kenya, research fellow at the Capital Area Food Bank, Austin, Texas, and the national coordinator of the Ghana Aid Effectiveness Forum. Now, he also served as a consultant on program design and evaluation with the Network Movement for Justice and Development in Sierra Leone. He has also served as a program manager for Send West Africa, now Send Ghana, and he was the head of programs, campaigns, and innovation of ActionAid from 2018 to 2021, an interim country director between September 2021 and April 2022. Yes, on the 1st of May, we got confirmation that he has been appointed the country director of ActionAid Ghana. Mr. John Nkaw is my guest today on Personality Profile. Chairman, welcome.
Thank you very much,
And
Lexis. This is very humbling, and I'm very glad to be here.
I'm so happy to see you, honestly. And congratulations. First of all, I need your tailor.
Right.
I need
No,
his number because
no problem.
you're looking good. Guys, we're live on Facebook, so you can actually check the video out and see Mr. Eko looking very, very glorious in his outfit today. But let me say congratulations to you, boss.
Thank you very much, Lexis. And I must say that you are also very inspirational young man. And I must also say that you are a role model to many people, including myself.
Wow.
And let
That's
me
humbling.
also say good evening, a hearty good evening to your listeners, and to say I'm very happy to be here for this
Yeah.
humbling
Yeah.
episode. Thank you.
I'm so happy you're here. You're such a fine man. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank
But I
you.
was so excited when I read the news that, hey, of course, Mr. John is the new country director. Must have been nice to know.
Yeah, I must say that yes, it's nice and most especially humbling, particularly because the process to get to be a country director for ActionAid is a very grueling um, situation.
Is it?
And yes, it takes about 6 months or more
Wow.
to get through to become a country director, because the process for recruitment is very rigorous. It goes through a series of processes, iterations, to ensure that at the end of the day, whoever is selected goes through a transparent and a more accountable process. And so I must say I'm very thankful to the ActionAid board. The board chairman is Nana Yao Ochre Eduache, who has been very inspirational, who has encouraged me a lot, and most especially also the past country director, Smaila Abdulrahman, who gave me a lot of opportunity to work hard and to learn on the job, and most especially all the board members for setting aside their own time to be able to participate in the process of the selection that saw me come through.
I'm quite curious about the process.
Yeah.
What did you have to go through? I mean, what was it like?
Wow, that's a good question. You know, the entry point is that the ActionAid has a template for applications,
Okay.
and it is a very long template that I believe is meant to test the resilience and the resolve of people who want to be part of the ActionAid family, to painstakingly present themselves in a way that is compelling, in a way that is triangulated, such that the information is such that if you don't present it so well, you will contradict yourself along the line. And that itself may not allow you to proceed even in the shortlisting phase. And so that was a difficult one, which needs a lot of patience and time and a very good mind to be able to do that. The second level is once you are shortlisted, you go through a written competitive exam.
Whoa.
And what that means is that if you get to know how even the marking is done, it's being marked by people who don't know who you are because the scripts are coded.
Okay.
And it is being marked by some of the best in the ActionAid fraternity at the international level. And so what that means is that the human factor is disconnected, and it's just your script that will speak.
Yeah.
And once you go through that process, you then go through the second phase, which is more or less a very oral process.
Okay.
But there are various phases in it that you have to go through. And
Okay.
it's quite a lengthy process.
Obviously.
And you have to also face very seasoned board members in the country because they have to set an interview panel. That cuts across, even the federation has representation. And what that means is that you have to be well prepared for such an endeavor.
Yeah.
And it's not any other person that would easily go through. I can tell you that it's really a time that I see as a learning experience, and it gave me a lot of exposure that I believe has changed who I am today.
Why did you go through that rigor?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, for me, many who know me know that I'm a man of conviction. I'm passionate in whatever I do. I inject a lot of energy in whatever I do. I can go at all lengths to be able to achieve what I set for myself. What I remember is that I read a lot of books. And there is one, I'm a Christian as a matter of fact, and I read a lot of books by Bishop Oyedepo.
Okay.
And one of the books that inspired me the first time I read was about divine direction. Oyedepo says that if you are not running with a vision and a mission, life becomes a frustration. And so that changed my perception to the extent that whatever I do, I invest a lot of time. And once I place my hands on the plow, I never look back.
Wow.
And that is what has really helped me to learn so fast in ActionAid. I remember when I was transitioning from Oxfam to ActionAid, I really dragged my feet because I thought that the offers in Oxfam were so good, but also I thought that ActionAid would help me nurture my career development trajectory.
Okay.
And that was what convinced me to join ActionAid. And so when I transitioned, I held every aspect of my work with the seriousness it deserved. And that helped to build my resilience to be able to go through the grueling process, I must say.
You know, the passion with which you speak, it certainly equates to the passion that you actually have for your job, and it's
Thank you.
impressive. And I'm if there's anything I'll take from our conversation, it's the passion that you willed, and I think it's a powerful thing.
Yeah, thank you.
And God bless you for sharing that. Honestly,
Thank you very much.
I'm happy. I'm
Yeah.
happy about it. Now, I know you've got a vast knowledge and experience in development, in the development space.
Right.
What is that one thing that you think did it for you to get a job? Was it that vast experience, or was something else about you? What do you think made it for you?
I'm happy you asked that, and let me also share that one of the very strong talent that I acquired early in my development work and trajectory was the fact that I had the privilege of working with one great development practitioner called Siafa Kamara. He's a Liberian.
Okay.
And one of the things he taught me is the passion and the zeal that you see in me today. He found me to be a young man that he could mentor. And so at that early stage, he saw that I was picking and developing the kinds of capabilities and skills that he wanted. So, for example, you need to be resilient. He's the type that can take you, he can sit with you up to midnight writing a report. And Lexis, it would take a person, especially a very young practitioner like that, a commitment and a far sight to see in a great man like Siafa Kamara that I wanted to one day become like him. And so I followed him after every step. If he's sitting up to 1 a.m., then I'm there with him. I wouldn't blink. He gives me an assignment at 1 a.m., for example, and tells me, John, I want you to deliver this to me by 5 a.m. So sometimes I'm like, is this great man wicked to me? I remember when we, at an early stage, I hadn't even done my master's. He looked among all the staff in St. West Africa and said, John, I'm going to do an evaluation for the Network Movement for Justice and Development in Sierra Leone. And I've spoken to the country director. I want to take you along. At a very young stage. So I said, well, sir, I don't have a master's. I don't know what policy evaluation is all about. And so he said, John, let's go. And so I prepared, and we went. We got to Sierra Leone. For the first time, I entered a helicopter. You know, those days, you have to, if you know Sierra Leone very well, you have to, the airport is across a certain river. You have to fly over.
Okay.
And so when we got there, I got the baptism of fire. He said, John, go to your room, shower, come, let's sit and develop the tools for the evaluation. You won't believe it. We sat till daybreak. He said, John, go shower. We are going to Koidu. That's one of the provinces. So you can imagine the type of grueling that I had to go through. That's why I'm telling you the ActionAid process is grueling. But like David, I already got my practice and training at the backside under one great man called Siafa Kamara. And so the long and short of it is that built my capacities.
Yeah.
Secondly, I am the type that I'm results oriented. I may not have the capacity, but once you define the goal and define the trajectory and give me the tools, I would never rest until I get it. For example, let me even backtrack. When I finished the University of Ghana, I told my colleagues that I'm going to work in the development sector. By that time, I was a teacher. So from Upper West, I got to the university here, and I told my wife, by then I'd married her very young, I said, Auntie, I'm not coming back to Wa again. And I can tell you that it threatened my marriage.
It did. I mean, it sounds like it will.
I lost friends because they thought I was crazy. Because if you look at the landscape of international development in Ghana, and particularly northern Ghana, many people call the northern region the seat of NGOs. And I hope you probably are aware of that literature.
Yeah.
And so I said, if it is the hub of NGOs, I want to work in an NGO. I don't want to be a teacher. I've served as a teacher for about 10 years, even though I was young. And so from Legon, I got my CVs prepared. In those days, we used to get mentoring at the African Development Studies Department. I did my CVs, my brother. When I got to Tamale, I moved from office to office. And by that time, I used to be very slim, with my file and my CVs, which I believed in, working from office to office. So one day, I asked of any development worker that I knew coming from where I come from, which is the Upper East region.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was raised in the northernmost part of Ghana in a place called Garu.
Garu.
It's very close to Togo.
Is it close to Timpani or something?
It used to be Garu Timpani. They are a clustered community.
Yeah.
And so, fortunately, there was another strong woman called Teresa Ajalo Azuma. She was working with CRS. So when I got wind of her, I went to her, introduced myself and said, I left WA and came here. And until I get appointment into development work, I'm not going to rest. So she laughed and gave me a seat. So she tried to find out how I was prepared. She asked for my CV.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I tell you she's a strong woman is what I'm going to reveal to you now. The CV that I prepared from the University of Ghana, under the tutelage of the African, what's the name of that center again? So, in other words, I prepared a nice CV from the University of Ghana. I got there. You won't believe it, Lexis. Teresa collected the CV, looked at it, and tore it into pieces.
Hey.
Threw it into the dustbin. In other words, all these exposures prepared me and gave me a better understanding of what it takes to work in the development sector.
Why did she tear the CV apart?
She told me it was rubbish. She told me it's rubbish. And John, this is what most of you and your colleagues, teachers do. And many believe that the NGO sector, if you don't have contacts there, you can't get employment. John, today I want you to know that it's a lie. I'm going to teach you how to prepare a CV. Lexis, another grueling encounter. We sat the whole day to prepare a CV.
Okay.
My brother, it is after that I said, damn it. Most of my friends are really missing. That CV, even though I was a fresh university graduate, you know what that CV did? Any place I sent that CV, I was shortlisted for interview.
What did it have that your old CV didn't have?
That CV focused on, first and foremost, understanding what the advert is looking for. You know what many people do? They do generic CVs. And they are working with it confidently like I used to do with my file. But generic CVs don't work in the development sector. In the development sector, you need to understand what is it that the advert is talking about. And you need to apprise yourself. You pick line by line the competencies that the advert seeks to look for. And you must speak to those competencies. Beyond that, your CV cannot cross the first shortlisting.
Okay.
And so, the first reason why I believe in Teresa was that there was a high job in CRS, which was program officer. And can you believe it? And that was first degree.
Okay.
I was shortlisted with master's degree holders. Now, the challenge was in the interview, how was I going to match with master's degrees holders as a young person? But you know what that did to me? It further exposed my learning capabilities. After that one, I told myself the next invitation, I'll take the job. The next one was Sen Foundation of West Africa.
Stay on the other one. So when you were shortlisted with the master students, did you go for the interview and what was the outcome?
I went for the interview and I could not match. That's what I'm saying. Even though I was not picked, maybe I probably chopped last. But I can tell you that it changed my horizon. It made me understand the arena of an NGO interview. And that's what I'm saying. That prepared me for the next one, which was the Sen Foundation of West Africa. And with Sen Foundation of West Africa, one of the things that attracted the country director was my level of confidence. I told you from university, I said I was going to Tamale, and I was going to work in an NGO, and that was the mission. So I walked to this office. And in those days, I tell you, I was a little bit smallish, slim. Then I entered with that my famous file that I spoke to you about.
You never let go of it.
No. Then the receptionist frowned on me.
Oh.
Yes. Do you know that later on I became a referee for that receptionist? She looked at me and said, "That what do I want? What do I want in the place?" I said, "Oh, I'm John Nkaw. I came to greet the director of the organization, and I have a message for the director." She told me the director is not available. He's not around. So I said, "Well, please, can I sit here and wait for him? I'm just trying to expose this because a lot of young men of today want things in a silver platter. Chasing your dreams means you have to hunt them." So I sat for more than 2 hours, and the lady was doing her work. People were coming, passing, and then she saw that she couldn't believe what was happening to this young man. Then she would always look at me and continue. Then I picked a newspaper and read. Finally, I saw that she picked the phone and called. I believe that was the director. So the director asked her to hold on. For about 30 minutes, I saw one man peep, opened the door and peep, looked at me sitting. He went back and for a while asked the secretary to let me come in. When I entered, I greeted him and sat down. You know what happened? He said, "Young man, what is your mission?" Then I started. I said, "Well," I introduced myself and said, "My purpose for coming here is to inform you that I'm a young man with proven capabilities." And I've come to assure him that I have a vision of working in a development organization. And if should there be an opportunity, he should count on me and just consider me just for shortlisting.
Wow.
So blah, blah, blah. He asked me, "So what is my level of education?" He said, "Young man, but you don't have masters." I said, "Sir, I don't have masters, but I can tell you with all the conviction that if you give me the job, I would work to your delight. I would ensure that the outcomes that you want to achieve, I will deliver it for you." He says, "Young man, are you sure?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Okay, there's a program officer position, but looking at your certificate, you will not make it." I said, "Count on me. I have the capacity to ride a motor in the whole northern Ghana." Then he sat well on his seat. He said, "Yes, I can assure you that if you give me the job, you said you need a program officer. Whether you have a car or a motorbike, I would use it to deliver the results." Then he looked at me and asked me, "Do you have a license?" I picked that my famous file, pulled a license.
You were prepared, goodness.
So the long and short of it is that there's a lot that happened. He asked where I came from. That he has never seen a young man with confidence like me.
But I'm wondering, why were you convinced that, okay, let me put it this way. Working in the development space, where did that motivation come from? What made you so keen on working in the development space? Was it something you saw growing up? Was it something personal?
Fantastic. I come from a very poor family. And to tell you the truth, as a young man, I became angry at poverty. Poverty, I was at enmity with poverty. And I told myself that I am going to kick out poverty in my family. So given that situation, and getting to see a lot more NGO officers come to my community riding motors, and you know, at that level, they are the creme de la creme. They are the top people, very nicely dressed. Everybody is going after them. They are in charge of everything in the village. And so I said that I want to be like these people to change lives in my community. And so it sank in my entire being. It guided all my actions. And so the long and short of it is that I benefited from some form of encouragement from some of them. And that encouragement contributed towards the empowerment and the confidence that I have.
Yeah.
And that was the motivational force behind that.
That's interesting. If you're listening in, this is Personality Profile. I'm Lexis Bill, and today I'm spending time with the country director of ActionAid Ghana. I mean, your confidence is through the roof, Mr. John Nkaw. You can send us a WhatsApp message on 055 1111997. I'm quite curious about how poor was.
Yeah.
Tell us about growing up and the poverty you had to endure, so much so that you actually wanted to kick it out of your family.
You know, ordinarily, I shouldn't have come from that level of poverty, because my father was one of the early people who got educated in the whole of that part of Ghana.
Garu?
Yes. As a matter of fact, that's Boku.
Boku, okay.
You know, in those days, under the colonial regime, chiefs were asked to always identify or send one child, because there was this drive to sort of improve educational literacy in the various villages. And so he was privileged to be one of the people from my village called Yarigungu,
Okay.
currently in the Bunduri district, to get educated. But in doing so, along the line, I must say that even though he was beaming with a lot of vision to try and transform the area that he came from, by the way, he trained a lot. Most of the highly educated people from the area passed through his hands. But along the line, we faced challenges in the family.
Why?
Because in his quest to try to support, he ended up losing focus. Why did he do that? He tried to ensure that he educate most of the young people in the village, and so he brought them in the house. What that meant was that it drove him into economic challenges. And if you are driven into economic challenges and you don't take time, you'll be pushed into various forms of vices. And so with time, he developed cultures that led to his early death. So what that meant was that I was the only boy that he had, even though he had trained many of my cousins with the expectations that they would become great people and take over. But unfortunately, that didn't materialize. It's just one or two of them that did quite well. But in terms of the support, downstreaming the support to us, it didn't come. So this is what happened. So when he died, my uncles then said, given that I'm the only son, I needed to drop from school to join my colleagues at the village to farm to feed my mom and my 3 kid sisters. I remember that day I wept. So what happened was that my uncle used his stick, hit the ground, and said, it must happen. I cannot go to the school. He has no money. And therefore, if I go, who will feed my mom? Then my mom was crying. I was crying. The kids were all crying in the village. So the long and short of it is that my mom got up and she did well, pick an item and say he was going back to Boku. If he's going to wash people's plates and feed me and ensure that I go to school, she would do that. So that's one of the levels of, I'm just saying that for you to understand where we came from. Being an orphan and having to brave education, even though I had a senior sister called Mary Nkaw, who had a great deal of impact in my life, and a husband, Alhaji Abu Isaka. He heard of it and came and took me to the husband's house. Lexis, that is what blew my world and enabled me to break the glass ceiling, because at where they were, that was now in Upper West. She was married to Upper West. In Upper West, I had the privilege to mingle with children of privileged people. People like Julius Barry Dasa, who was then always talking big, saying that he would one day be a great statistician in Ghana, working in the Bank of Ghana and being a lecturer. I didn't understand what that was about, because I was coming from a very deprived place. Then you had people like Torresom, who said, a Yelebora, who says he wants to work as a great banker. It's a long story. That was the kind of people I was in their midst.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, people like Bangun Lori and the rest were all people, the president
Fred Baganluri.
These were the people.
President of Academic City.
Yes. You have Sebastian Zato, who is now a great Catholic priest.
Wow.
They were talking big because they were in the mission schools.
Yeah.
They were exposed. Their fathers were in privileged positions. Then I was always following them. So one day I told myself, if this is where these guys want to be, I must also break the ceiling.
Yeah.
And so in development work, I never rested. I worked so hard to the extent that my work was identified by Ford Foundation. As I told you, my former chief executive used to call me Use, because true to the word, I was given a motorbike, and I rode the motorbike through all the districts in northern Ghana.
Wow.
Lexis, do you know northern Ghana?
I don't know parts
I
of
can
it,
ride a motor from Tamale, pass to Sandema, go to Tumu, go to Laura, go to Nandom, and come back to Wa.
Wow.
So the man called me Used, because those days there was a white man who had a big motor riding like that. So those were the kinds of capacities the CEO saw in me.
Yeah.
And gave me. So the type of community development work that I was doing ensured that I met the competencies of Ford Foundation International. And when they were called up for scholarship, I was one of the people in Ghana who benefited from it. It's a very prestigious scholarship program. That is what took me to the University of Texas at Austin.
Yeah.
Evans Mensa of your organization here benefits so many people.
Yeah.
And what that scholarship did was to further expand my horizon and introduce me into international development.
Yeah.
Once at school, as a result of the hard work, in the first year, I made all A's in the university.
You did.
In the Lyndon B. Johnson, in the Lyndon B. School of Public Affairs, University of Texas. I was called into the Hall of Fame. You know, the universities, they in America, they have various halls of fame for exceptionally brilliant students.
Yeah.
So once we went through that, at my final year, there was a call that UNDP wanted a brilliant student to send him under the United States Department of Defense to go to Kenya to work with UNDP to conduct climate change vulnerability analysis, do mapping, because the US government had found out that in the next 30 years, climate change related conflicts will hit the Horn of Africa.
Right.
Eastern Africa taken to, and you can see that it's already happening. I went and mapped climate change vulnerabilities, and that is what introduced me to international development.
No, this is very impressive, honestly. And now I understand why you are the country director of ActionAid. Honestly, you have paid your dues, brother. You really have paid your dues. Let's talk about ActionAid and ActionAid's work in Ghana now.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, ActionAid, like I said, is one organization that I developed interest in, as I said earlier on, during my childhood days. Because ActionAid, as a matter of fact, started in the Upper East region, particularly in the area that I come from, in the Boku. And I told you the lure, the attraction, the type of quality programs that they were implementing and changing the life of especially vulnerable women and poor people from the communities. They built schools. They sponsored children from poor communities. They provided books. They supported farm families to enhance their agricultural livelihoods, improve farming systems, constructed dams to support what we call vegetable production, and supported the introduction of what we call agroecology, which is the use of organic manure, compost, to enrich the land. So that created a lot of employment opportunities, supported women through village savings and loan schemes, supported young people who didn't have hope to remain in school. And by the way, that's where my passion is. And so because of that, even though I was working in the international development sector, I thought that it was increasingly important to find a development organization that was rooted in the communities like ActionAid, working with women and children and empowering them to become great people. ActionAid is precisely doing that, and currently under the Ghana Country Strategy Paper 6, we have 5 mission priorities. We work with a vision to try to create a just country where people live in dignity and have their rights accrued. We are running with a mission to promote social justice. We are running with a mission to challenge gender inequalities. We are running with a mission to combat poverty and ensure that people live a life of dignity. In doing so, the mission priorities, first and foremost, is geared towards promoting climate-resilient, sustainable agriculture, promoting resilience in families, creating opportunities for skill acquisition, empowering communities with agronomic practices, promoting agroecology. And as we speak in ActionAid, we work with communities to even develop, under the climate sustainable agriculture, to develop what we call community adaptation plans, which is geared towards promoting climate change. We are also working to promote, to combat violence against women and to reduce unpaid care work. You realize that many economists have not been able to quantify what we call unpaid care work in the domestic setting. Women contribute significant proportion of their time in running domestic related activities. Although these are not quantified, they have economistic value. The man is able to go to work because the woman takes care of the house, she prepares food, she undertakes both productive and biological responsibilities. And all this needed to be quantified to ensure that there's redistribution of unpaid care work in the home. Once the utility of that is, once the distribution is effectively distributed, women will have a lot more time to engage in economic activities. And so ActionAid is working seriously around that, promoting early childhood development centers, creating opportunities for women to have safe places to send their children so they can become productive. And we have a lot of results around that.
So I'm wondering, ActionAid came to Ghana in the early 90s, I think.
Correct.
So, right?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of development organizations as well, especially in the northern part. Like you said earlier, it's common knowledge that it has the biggest collection of the development agencies and NGOs and NPOs.
Yeah.
Why is our country's development moving at a slow pace?
Thank you very much. there is an intersectionality of factors in our understanding that contribute towards this. For example, if you take the economic sector, currently, many developing countries are implementing what we call neoliberal policies. And under neoliberalism, we have multinational corporations that come into these developing countries. They engage in large industrial agriculture. They use chemical fertilizers. And in the effect, in some communities, there's contention even to get arable land for food crop production. And so what happens is that the more and more that multinational companies come in and dominate the agriculture sector, and remember, agriculture is the mainstay, providing a lot more employment, about 80% in Ghana, and so on and so forth. What that means is that more and more governments are shifting towards the broader mass food crop production areas and supporting industrial agriculture. And what that means is that it reduces the advantage and the motivation for people to want to go into that area. That provides large-scale employment opportunities to people. In addition to that, policies that are being implemented, for example, in the area of taxation, we argue that taxation in the country should be more progressive. What that means is that people who can pay more should pay more, so that the benefit of the revenue that is mobilized can reach a wider margin. And so, in other words, neoliberalism and policies from the IMF and the Bretton Woods institutions, although they are well-intentioned, their negative effect continues to increase our debt overhang, and that continues to increase poverty in the country.
Since you're talking about taxes,
yes,
do you have an opinion on the e-levy?
The e-levy.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as the e-levy is concerned, we are looking at it in terms of the progressive taxation aspect. To what extent, how does the e-levy promote or create opportunities for vulnerable women to become a lot more economically viable? We ask that question.
Have you gotten answers to that?
Yes. And so, as far as we are concerned, we continue to also advocate for government to lower the threshold. Because given the economic situation in which we are now, there's the need for all of us to contribute towards supporting government come out of the economic situation. And so that is the situation, but there is the need for social safety nets to be able to take care of the vulnerable. And in our case, we argue for women-headed household. We argue for the youth. We support enterprise development for the youth and the children.
I think that advocacy for, well, I think on the general front, the poor was taken care of, at least per the little bit I've heard from the implementers. That's how come there's it goes above 100 Ghana cedis, especially for the e-levy. That's not enough for you?
Yeah, we think that much more could have been done. It would have been good if we can have the threshold further lifted. But given the current situation, this is my personal opinion, there's the need for us to allow, the legislation has been passed, let's allow it to roll over, and there'll be various forms of assessments. And based on that, the government will be advised. Civil society organizations are engaged in policy influencing to try and do and influence that policy. And I believe that once it runs and we are able to establish case studies, we are able to conduct research to generate evidence, government will be properly advised.
Okay. Lots of messages are coming in, honestly. People are enjoying our conversation. Good evening, Lexis. This is from Stephen in Pricer, who says, such a touching story. It reminds me of when I wanted to teach in one private school after SHS in 2014. Due to my size, the headmistress told me the admission forms had finished. She thought I was coming for admission. I finally got the job elsewhere. I'm a professional teacher now, though. That's from Stephen. Thank you so much, Stephen. Good evening, Lexis. This man has a lot to share. Kindly have part 2 of this interview with him. It's from Enoch Nanate in Latte Kwapim and Hasib in Tamale. Says, very outstanding presentation from the country director. He's entirely a role model for the younger generation. Big ups to him, and I wish him all the best. Edmond White says, good evening, Lexis. I'm really enjoying the interview with the country director of ActionAid. I really appreciate his sense of determination, resilience, focus, and commitment, and passion for excellence. God bless you greatly. I'd like to be his friend to learn from the inspirational qualities he has.
Thank you.
There you go.
That's humbling.
You've made new friends today, a lot of new friends, and a lot of them keep sending in messages as well on our platform, 055-111-1997. Now, this conversation is live on our Facebook. You can actually go check it out a bit later when we're done if you missed any part of the conversation, okay? If you're on there as well and you're watching us live, you can put in your comments so we can read out. You've learned a lot in life. Life has taught you a lot from, growing up and even through work. What are the biggest lessons life has taught you?
Before I come to that, let me quickly touch on the NGOs and Northern Ghana and the impact on combating poverty. One of the challenges that we have is that NGOs are implementing models. In other words, we do not arrogate it to ourselves that we can single-handedly combat poverty and eradicate poverty. But what we showcase is we are providing evidence and models to show to government that this works.
Yeah.
So, for example, village savings and loans shows that women are able to use little resources that they are given more productively, and they are able to pay back the resources. And the economic impact of that to their household is so enormous. There's a lot of research that shows that. How does government ensure that credit schemes are well tailored to meet this category of society? We are talking about agroecology. Lexis, whether we like it or not, COVID-19 and the Ukraine-Russia war does point to us that whether we like it or not, we need to find home-based approaches towards creating organic manure to support our farming, and it is even proven that that is the most sustainable way. We are also, NGOs are also working within the micro sectors of the economy, hard to reach areas. These are some places that even people say government has forgotten about the people, but NGOs are able to penetrate. So can you imagine if NGOs were not in Northern Ghana and the hard-to-reach areas? Do you know the impact of it? So although the impact is not as so big, but we also pride ourselves to the fact that we are able to touch and reach the unreached, and therefore improve the local economy with our contributions. Back to the lessons.
Yes.
One of the lessons I've learned in life is that if you are not running with a vision and with a mission, life is a struggle. In other words, there is no quick fix. There is no quick fix in any economy, not even the US that I went to school. As a young man, you need to determine what you want to be in life. And by so doing, you break that mission or vision into objective, implementable plans. In addition to that, I also believe one of the lessons that I've learned is to work under mentors.
Yeah.
You need to get great people that you aspire, you want to be like them. Build relationship with them and learn from them. I've learned from the feet of Siafa Kamara. I've learned from the feet of Samuel Zan. I've learned from the feet of Smaila Abdul Rahman. I'm learning under the feet of Nana Yao.
And,
Ochre Oduache.
And today we have learned from you.
And the list continues.
I wish we could go on and on. Honestly, I totally agree that we actually need a part 2. But I got to be honest. Yeah. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm grateful that you came to share with us. It's been very impactful, and I need to say God bless you and the team at ActionAid, and I'm sure we'll deliberate a lot further along the line.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you so much, Lexis.
Yes.
And let me say, ActionAid is honored to be your partner.
Yeah.
We do not take this relationship for granted. And I like it the way you have made us to relax. We are not so much in a formal setting. I believe that informality has created a lot of learning points for many of us, including myself.
Thank you
And
so
I'm
much.
also learning from your feet.
I'm Lexis Bill. This is a great evening. Thank you so much, Heniwa and the team at ActionAid.
Yeah.
It's time for the news, and MFA Apau is here. Hello, MFA.
Hello, Lexis. Interesting conversation there. Time for Joy Headline News at 8. Tonight, a former legal consultant to the Lands and Forestry Commission, a lawyer